Dame Dash recently pointed out Cameron's transition from mocking the media to embracing it, in a sense, for his podcast. So let's discuss whether this represents a strategic move, a genuine evolution, or something else entirely, because we've always seen Cam as a defiant figure of sorts. So this move is particularly intriguing, but haven't artists always sought ways to connect directly with their audience? Mm-hmm. And isn't this just an evolution of it? I don't know. We can talk about it.
For some reason, people justify like, oh, I'm a journalist now, so I can interview male strippers and I could, be in other people's business. We didn't respect journalists that did that. That's a choice to be a journalist, but you're not a civilian. Think about all the people that used to talk about us in journalism and do corny shit that we used to laugh at. No disrespect, but we never respected Elliot because he's not in music, because he was talking about people. Just because you're a journalist doesn't mean you have that you can do things that you might find corny or immoral, but these are funny things.
Let's focus on this particular point here. Is this shift by Cameron, into the media space, is it a betrayal of his earlier anti-establishment stance, which I don't really think that's what it was, or is this just a savvy adaptation in the changing media landscape that we're seeing?
I don't think it's the same, because when Cam was featured in that, I want to say he's talking about the MSNBC interview?
Him and Bill O'Reilly.
That was Fox News.
Fox, okay.
You mad?
Should have been, you mad. That was about Bill O'Reilly pretty much shitting on hip hop as a whole, and Cameron was poking the bear essentially. This is a podcast format where Cam show is mostly about sports, essentially.
He pivoted outside of that too.
He does. He can though.
He got time with Flea.
Yeah,
where he does, because that's what he was mentioning, and was the dude that was the Diddy cohort, where he was asking him about Cassie. And how was the? Oh yeah,
he did do an interview with him. Yeah, okay. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's Cam. He would interview and asking dumb shit like that. I don't really see this as being the same type of media per se as the one he kind of stood against. So this is more a performative media, clicks and views and things of that
There's
nature.
a difference in journalism versus kind of like what we do.
Yeah. I wouldn't consider us like journalists.
No,
we can talk about whatever we want to talk about, and I don't see anybody being able to critique what we're talking about, because it all pretty much comes back to music at the end of the day anyway. Even if it doesn't, still, we're having a conversation. This isn't a nationally syndicated show that comes on every day and you're relying on us for actual facts. But they don't rely on the news for actual facts either, but I'm kind of going astray. Yeah. I just don't think it makes any difference where Cam had a stance against that particular type of media versus the media that he's doing right now. I just don't see it.
Well, the traditional, again, maybe I'm out of touch with some of the information related to Cam's history, but talking about Elliott Wilson, that's a far cry from being on, a Fox News program with one of the biggest primetime people in Bill O'Reilly. Like those are entirely different worlds. So I'm not, I guess I don't even understand Dame's critique. Yeah. Because those spaces are totally different.
He's just mad at Dame, right? Mad at Cameron right now.
Sour grapes.
He's mad at a lot of people right now, apparently. Does anybody disagree with that?
Well, no, we framed it kind of as this just a pivot that makes sense for Cam. And it is, because it's, for regardless of, anybody who's listening or watching, how much of a Cameron fan you are, Cameron's time is over with.
He's
not getting in Ohio as much anymore.
Yeah, exactly. That too. But it really is a situation to where, like, if you are a rapper from a certain era, unless you're going to go out and do the legacy tour thing, then you have to find some other way to earn money and remain relevant. And one of the ways people are doing that is they're creating their own platforms as far as interviews, as far as conversations are concerned. Cam and Mace is, mostly about sports, but of course they venture into pop culture and whatnot, because that is, how do you act like, if you're Cam and Mace and you're from Harlem, and how do you act like you don't see this whole thing going on with Mr. Sean Combs, a few months ago? So I think a lot of artists are going to have to do that, because there are still artists like who are releasing music, but there are as many people who are creating these platforms. Like, there are people who haven't listened to Jay Diff or Fat Joe in years, but they're right there at the top of their algorithm as far as this show that they have, that is a debunking of Fat Joe's lies.
Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, these people are still noteworthy figures in pop culture and in music. Their names still carry some weight. Even if you say, Fat Joe or Jadakiss or, Cam or Mace, like, everybody knows who they are. But at the same time, like, how old was Cam when he was making these records? 20, 22, 24? Like, he's not going to be the same person now. I think pivots are natural.
Pivots are necessary.
And necessary, natural and necessary. He just put on his little, his little nice suit and turns into a giggle monster on that show. But
he literally just kicked.
I saw that.
What's his name off the show?
Adrian Bronner.
For talking about his co-host. Kept cracking on her, and he's like, "I'm gonna have to respectfully ask you to leave."
He was drunk.
Yeah, I mean,
you could clearly tell AB was drunk.
He acts stupid regardless of where he be drunk or not.
Yeah, he made sure he got him out of there. Though he cashed him out.
Mm-hmm. It was respectful.
What do you think, Byron? Do you have anything to add to that?
I think ultimately, man, what this is, man, is just sour grapes, man. People really care about what Cam has to do. Cam kind of threw that shot about, buying Paid in Full, and not only doing that, but teaming up with 50 to do it. And now people are coming back to Dame with questions about that. He had the whole Breakfast Club interview today, which
we'll talk about later.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just a few going between them two, because they've been talking back and forth for probably the last month or so about Dame, Cam not helping Dame to get back on his feet, be in the position that he needs to be, or he should be, being that being that Dame, when he was on top, he put Cam on, or he put him in a better position. He got him out of his deal with Sony, I think.
Sony Epic.
Yeah, he got him out of his deal with that and brought him over to The Rock, and then helped catapult his career. It gave him a second resurgence. So now Dame, it feels some type of way because he's going through hell right now, probably financially. So he says he's not, but just the way it looks like, to the media. And he feels that Cam should be doing something to help him get on his level, to be put in a better position. And unfortunately, Cam don't feel the same. You know what I mean? It's like, man, you had your opportunity and you quit working. Those were Cam's words. You quit working, you got comfortable. And I don't think that's the case. It's just the product that Dame was putting out was crap.
Sure.
I've been around Dame in person at an unmentionable event here in Indy, and he was weird, man. His whole energy was weird. Personally, I was just observing him and his family and his wife and the way he was interacting. And I don't know. He just seems kind of miserable, to be honest. I wouldn't want to be around him, and I don't know. I feel like you've kind of alluded to this, but he just is at a point in his life where things haven't aligned. A lot of it is probably decisions he's made, and also we all know this to be true. But when you are a public figure on some level, there's a certain amount that the public knows, and there's a whole lot that the public doesn't know. And I'm sure Cam is hip to information that we probably don't have about Dame and whatever happens behind the scene, and just the way that people operate and interact. I don't know. I think that we're probably trying to read into this, but at the end of the day, I'm sure I would trust that Cam has a lot more info to make a sound response.
To pivot back kind of to the conversation about the media stuff, is what Cameron's doing now, is that does it differ him from like the traditional hip hop media that we've seen in the past, such as the Elliott Wilsons?
Definitely, because you're getting it straight from the horse's mouth now. You know what I mean? You're getting straight from, they don't have to go through a search channel. It's the same thing that happened with sports.
But at the same time, like, Cameron doesn't know everything. He's not the monolith of hip hop news, right?
He's not, but at the same time, like, they have real stories and experiences that people want to hear about. You know what I mean? So that's why people are going directly. Like journalism in hip hop journalism for real is a niche market now. You know what I mean? Like if you want to hear an editorial or something like that, then you can go holler at Rob Markman or Elliot. You know,
Justin Hunt,
B. Dot. Yeah, you know what I mean? You can go to those. You can go to those spaces and get that. But if you want to hear it directly from the artist who's doing the work now, and it's not as colorful and pretty as, or as educated as you could get from those people that were just previously mentioned, you can go straight to the horse's mouth and get the stories directly from them.
Yeah, I mean, you got the Locks doing their thing. I mean, there's a lot of people that, and there's entertainment value as well within these spheres that makes it I don't know, I guess just entertaining.
I think that's just the argument that's going on in media, period. You know what I mean? Because the athletes are doing it with sports media now, and you're getting the same thing in music.
So is that turning into the new traditional? Then I don't know if new traditional even makes sense as a phrase, but is that kind of what this is? Is that where we're heading in general?
I think it's just more entertaining at the end of the day. I mean, at the end, it's entertainment. And it's more entertaining to hear it from an entertainer speaking from their point of view. So, I mean, I don't know. I think there's still room in the organization for people that aren't them and haven't necessarily been an entertainer. But again, it just adds to kind of the allure of it a little bit.
Well, I think it's also tied to the fact that now with all of the technology makes the access and the ability to produce things like this show, the cost is lower, and now you have a new career opportunity that literally didn't exist. You know, like if Larry Bird and I don't know, Isaiah Thomas wanted to get on TV and start talking shit about all of their stuff in 1997, I'm sure people would have tuned in, but it wasn't really. Unless they were joining Ahmad Rashad, that wasn't going to happen. You know what I mean? So I just think that a lot of people are just pivoting because you're not going to be able to sell records forever, and the people in the music industry, the records aren't really selling. So
streaming money is better.
Yeah, I mean, and I think realistically, I mean, we know this. Like I've mentioned to you guys many times, and in our meetings and stuff about how like we're not in the same bracket as like a Joe and Jada or a Joe Budden or all these other people, because these are celebrities within this particular thing that are talking about something from a certain perspective angle. Sure, we've been a part of this for a very long time, but we're not celebrities. We have a different, the viewership looks at us differently than they're going to look at a Joe Budden or a Jada Kiss or a Cameron or anybody that they can recognize from nostalgia's point of view. They're just going to look at it. And there is an entertainment piece with that. And I think in general, the stuff that we kind of come from, the angle we come from, is not necessarily a journalistic approach, but it is more of a narrative related conversation piece as opposed to that. So I feel like we're in this very interesting space within this media sphere, if you will, where like we still have some traditional journalists, but then we have some people like us, and then we have another group of people, and then we have just the famous people, and then everything in between. So
I think it is journalism, though. It's not traditional journalism, but it is journalish.
It's journalish, but as somebody who was in media for a very long time, this is not journalism. Like, I mean, I don't know. I never consider myself a journalist. I mean, Nick wrote for a long time back in, post-college days and stuff like this. I don't think we hold ourselves to too high enough standards with everything that we do to like legitimately call ourselves journalists.
I mean, I always felt weird about, I would use the term hip hop journalist to describe the work that we did, but we deliberately spent hours every day tracking down leads, calling people, being on the phone, writing stuff up. I mean, one story I wrote, was about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and this thing he did in LA surrounded by jazz. And then the New York Times quoted it and mentioned Sound Slam. Yeah. And then Stephen Colbert Report cited New York Times and said Sound Slam. And now it's on Comedy Central, literally just from some press thing that I got. So, I mean, and again, I say that not to give myself praise here, but to say that like we were doing this work, but we still weren't real journalists.
Yeah, that's
what I'm saying? Like
there's
there's people like really grinding it out every day.
Yeah.
And we were just kind of like doing the best that we could.
Sure.
So there's levels to, I think
I think one of the things that when we're talking about a shifting media landscape, we're seeing things that are going to be perhaps viewed as traditional journalism, in the next 20 to 25 years.
I can see that.
You know, because when I get a chance, my algorithm will pop up Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes on All the Smoke. And they'll talk to some player and they'll get some information and insight when they're talking to Kevin Garnett or Vernon Maxwell that I would have never gotten if somebody was on ESPN, because you got to worry about censorship.
Sure.
But then you also have to worry about, okay, what the A block is only 8 minutes, so we got to do this and this, that, and the third. I'm getting, the straight dope from these guys that I
no pun intended.
Yeah, that I would not be able to get. And it's the same thing with when you have these platforms that speak about music. I don't know what his issue specifically with Elliott is. I don't know what he might have wrote about him, because Dame, when Dame says somebody's name, a lot of times it comes from a personal place, and it's so that is what it is. I don't really care to do too much research on that, but because I'm not a journalist. But right now, if Ralph Wiley were still alive right now, it's a famous sports writer, and he saw that part of the ESPN platform is World Wrestling Entertainment, he'd be like, what happened here? But so that's the adjustment that ESPN has had to make, because there's so much other content that honestly is done outside of their reach that is more engaging and honestly more interesting, as opposed to just reporting the scores every 15 minutes on SportsCenter, or having the talking heads come on, like Steven, like the adjustment that you see is a reaction to what is happening on the internet on ESPN. I know a lot of people hate it, but that's why Pat McAfee is where he is.
Exactly.
The crazy thing is, like, you got to understand, Pat McAfee's, a lot of times he's got a 2-hour show on ESPN, but when they turn the cameras off and shift it on to something else, like a lot of times that show goes on for another hour, 25 minutes, maybe another hour and a half.
I legitimately think that journalism as we know it right now is going to go away, and it's going to be replaced by AI probably in the next 5 to 6 years. In the sense of just like reporting factual things.
The scores, the transactions, all that stuff. And then because we're seeing it in all these places that used to be historical, like journalism, it's like, it's shifting. And we don't really need a whole bunch of people to talk. And
that's scary.
Is it from one perspective, maybe, but from another perspective, it's also kind of like, well, maybe we don't have to worry about like considering Fox News a news source anymore.
Well, the thing,
but then again, they'll have their own thing.
Yeah, you do though, because.
But then there might be trusted sources. Like it depends on how that works, right?
But it's just like I'm just trying to imagine. Like I said, this media landscape has changed so much from the people I watched growing up on ESPN. I just couldn't imagine, Dick Schaap having a conversation with Triple H.
Say that again.
Dick Schaap.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll be sure.
Okay. Pause. Since Dame Dash is on the screen.
No, I think I say that's scary just because you're going to, like, you're getting programmed information, and which you are now anyway. But like, there's no real emotion. You won't have real emotion behind it from a pundit or something.
I'm not saying that like the regular stuff that's happening right now, like these type of conversations won't exist. I'm just saying like I feel like there's going to be. We're already really seeing it. To be honest, we're already seeing fake AI people do stuff like this, but I feel like that's somewhat of the future, probably, potentially, or it's going to be even more niche than it is right now, probably.
Yeah, it's not far-fetched.
No, it's not.
It's not far off.